文长专题演讲。我们很高兴邀请到的是财团法人台湾网路资讯中心的黄胜雄董事长，为我们担任主讲人。Moving on to the next keynote speech, it is our great pleasure to have Dr. Kenny Huang, Board Chair of APNIC-TWNIC, as our speaker. 黄胜雄董事长呢，在亚洲的网路社群当中扮演关键的角色，在多个网路技术跟政策的组织当中担任要职，包括了 APNIC 执委会的主席、ICANN CCPDP4 顶级国码政策工作小组的主席，以及中文专家小组的共同主席等等。Dr. Huang is a prominent figure in Asia's internet communities. He has held key positions in various internet technology and policy organizations, including the chair of APNIC Executive Council, the chair of CCPDP4 Working Group, and the co-chair of the Chinese Generation Panel. 今天黄董事长呢，要跟大家分享的主题是海床安全界定对重要水下基础设施资产的威胁。Today, Dr. Huang will speak to us about seabed security, defining the threat to critical underwater infrastructure assets. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Kenny Huang. 我们掌声欢迎黄胜雄董事长。
好，谢谢。And thank you for joining the section. We are a little bit late, but anyway, I try my best. 这一次讨论的题目是 seabed.
So today I would like to speak to the topic of seabed security.
As I mentioned yesterday, 事实上我们 the internet was
As mentioned yesterday,
and infrastructure independent. We don't care what kind of application being deployed on top of the internet, and we don't care what kind of infrastructure being deployed under our infrastructure. Either you are sea cable, you are satellite, or you are whatever. We don't care. We live in our silo world, and we enjoying the super monopoly power in the internet. And eventually, we become the single point of failure of the entire digital space. If anything goes wrong in our world, the global internet went dark. So we need to open a window to see, on top of the application, we need to open a window. For example, DNS abuse, IP abuse, blacklist, and RPKI. Actually, let's open a window for the application there. And today, I try to open the window for the infrastructure layer to see how we can help from internet point of view. 好，因为时间关系，我尽量快一点哦。那简单来
in the interest of time, I need to be very quick with my presentation. As mentioned by President Lee from Korea, we are faced with great challenges such as global warming. So, we have to look at the sea cable. We know that we have northbound, southbound sea cable laying, but for the most part, it's either eastbound or westbound. In other words, sea cable were laid along the equator.
By the state regulation. So it happened almost more than 100 years. And Asia are suffering from that kind of combination, that kind of setting. But eventually, thanks to the global warming, so that's why 在北极的部分呢，它融化了。
So ice cap in Arctic Sea has melted, and therefore new sea routes has opened as a result of the melting of ice.
是产生这个新的海域，所以这个就是。
In other words, we know that the topology of undersea cable has changed. Previously, I said we don't need to care about infrastructure, but once infrastructure is compromised, that's something we need to keep in mind. So now, here in Asia, Europe, and North America, if we starting from the middle here, the majority of the connectivity actually are done using terrestrial network. As you can see, on North America, the majority of data center traffic goes through terrestrial network. And in the case of Europe, it's a combination of terrestrial and sea cables. So that's a hybrid model. On the left-hand side,
And 所以你看，在亚太地区，我们的生态真的跟北美跟欧洲就不一样。
So Asia is actually quite unique. In the case of Europe, we know European Union can regulate the cyberspace. And in North America, the internet is basically regulated by capitalism. But here in Asia, we need to identify our own governance model.
Cybersecurity talking about risk, we hardly discuss the risk distribution or threat distribution. So usually, 我们大部分 protection is within, for example, within the 3 sigma or 4 sigma, 3 standard deviation or 4 standard deviation. Why? Because it happens day to day. So we probably have more resource to prevent that kind from happening. So 有哪些相关的 common threat? 怎么有哪些 tool 可以去 against?
So what are some of the tools that we can use to mitigate the risk?
For example, like ISMS, Information Security Management System, and that's a standard process. It's also compliant with the cybersecurity regulation. Or, the other hand, we probably can deploy technology, advanced technology, for example, like AI technology, against that kind of cyber threat. But anyway, 这些工具只限于经济可行的范。
However, whatever tools we use, they need to be feasible in the sense that they shouldn't be too expensive. And as you can see, towards the right-hand side and left-hand side, these are tail risks, although they are not very likely to occur. But it's still possible for them to occur. But we are not addressing those risks because we don't have enough resources.
那上面的规范就是，当发生1、2级
So according to our law, our system needs to recover within 72 hours of being attacked. In other words, from negative 2.4 to positive 2.4. And the standard deviation is plus minus 2.4. And that covers 91% of the risks. However, if it's a level 3, level 4 incident, the recovery needs to be completed within 24 hours. Again, within 3 standard deviation. Is it possible that we can protect everything on the internet? No, we cannot afford to do that. So we can only target risks that we have the resources to protect against. So we should do what is feasible. However, if there are once in 100 years type of disasters, well, previously it's probably occurs every 200 years. But now tariff happens on a daily basis. So what can we do?
Few recommendations. The first recommendation we can set up emergency response team. We don't take the traditional way because it's cost too high. So, or either, so the power system power infrastructure need to support black star. 全黑韧性就是 without any external electricity support, the critical infrastructure can operate by itself. 第三个 we need to have a sabotage plan. So traditionally, so the critical infrastructure only have security plan, doesn't have sabotage plan. 但是我们需要有摧毁计划，因为在极端情境的时候，你可能必要的不是保护这个 critical infrastructure， 而是摧毁这个 infrastructure. So in this stage, whether we're going to protect underwater infrastructure or destroy underwater infrastructure, it depends. And also, we need to set up a ghost protocol. Because usually cybersecurity plan 它是一个公开型的文件，所有的
Cybersecurity plan is a public document. 所以所有的工作人员都必须要知道这样的计划是什么。那既然这个计划是公开的，所以你
he can identify the vulnerability from your security plan. 所以 the ghost plan should be invisible from most of the people. So we need to identify a ghost plan. 好 ，go back to data infrastructure. 事实上，从全球 Internet 的角度呢，我们看
From the perspective of global internet, we have satellite, we have other things, but we mainly have three things: sea cable, DNS, as mentioned by President Lee from KIFAS, and we also have IDC or AIDC. So supposedly, a browser goes from the left-hand side to the right-hand side. For example, Google, Meta, or whatever, ChatGPT, and so on and so forth. This type of communication flow needs to go back and forth. I'm using Taiwan as an example.
stage, then eventually go to the Google, go to the Meta. 这代表说，我们建立一个 connection， 它已经绕地球6、7圈了。那我昨天谈到一个概念。
Yesterday, I mentioned that DNS is not just for people. DNS is for machines because it's already embedded in all the database. So you are actually using database as a basis. And it's part of the global software infrastructure. So once C cable is cut, your library will not function anymore. And you will lose your internet as a result. Therefore, as mentioned already, we are very happy living in our network layer.
So like, we need to, do we need to care about a submarine cable? Yes, we do. 因为它变成是我们从
Because from the perspective of supply chain, sea cable is a critical part of our supply chain. So we do resilience mapping. 对辉达来讲，它主要的弱点就是台积电。那以台积电来讲，它的弱点就是 ASMO。以网际网络的治理，其实也有一些弱点存在。虽然我们是自己治理的，可是，比如说我们刚才已经说过了，所有的海底电缆被切断，那你就没有网络治理可言了。So I will not be going into details with this graph. We have a total of 14 sea cables. Is it possible that we can increase our investment in sea cables? So this is a procedure that we need to follow. For example, we need to make applications for approval so that we can conduct underwater cultural heritage survey. And we need to work with various government agencies. So if you take a look at on the right-hand side, we need to remove item 2.2.4.1. Well, basically, we want to base our decisions on comparative law. We hope that cultural heritage should be removed from the Ministry of Culture. And we probably can refer to the experience in Singapore, Hong Kong, Japan, and Australia. And we can also optimize our entire procedure, including procedure 2.1, 4.3, 4.3. Here, the legal basis is a principle of administrative efficiency. And in terms of midterm and long-term suggestions, we hope that we can enact a specialized submarine cable legislation. And the legal basis is the principle of unified authority and consistent jurisdiction. In other words, when we come up with any policy, we need to also make clear what our legal basis is.
I didn't go to detail because we're running out of time. So go to the sea cable exclusive economy zone and critical underwater infrastructure security. And usually, let's take Taiwan for example. 我们有 territory water within 12 miles. That's territory water. And we also have EEZ, exclusive economy zone, 专属经济海域. Then on top of that will be high sea, 就是公海. 那事实上 which compared to last year before 2024, we only protect anything happen on land. So after 2024, we start extending to our territory water. Right now, not only concerned with the territory water, we need to concern the EEZ requirement, economy zone, exclusive economy zone requirement. 200海里啊，自己就画一个圈。好，那从 Seabed
So from seabed security perspective, there are two things we need to keep in mind. The first one is commercial use, and the second is military use. So for commercial use, obviously we need to make sure we have a resilient system for producing energy. In other words, we are looking at pipelines for transporting energy. So we need to increase the resilience of our pipeline system. Then probably we need to bury them deeper into the sea. And we also need to raise awareness so that more people understand it's important to protect sea cable. In addition to commercial use, there's also military use. So for military use, we need to protect the production of energy and security of communication. We need to raise awareness. We need to build up new capabilities. Obviously, in order to defend our seabed infrastructure, we really need to develop new capabilities. Let's not forget, underwater is a gray zone because we can only see the part above the water. But the portion that's under the water is very risky because it's a hidden environment.
Then an escalation to a very, very aggressive in a very short time. 所以这个就是说，这个风险呢，它可能看起来风。
So probably above the water, everything is quite calm. But probably in the next second, what happens under the sea, you will not be able to see. Probably your sea cable has already been severed. For example, uncrewed vessel, unmanned underwater vehicles can be used to cut your undersea cable.
To be very, very aggressive. 是看不到的，所以这种特性呢是什么？gray zone aggression， 它就
As mentioned, this is gray zone aggression because you are not able to see with your naked eye what's happening under the water.
vehicle， 那这些工具事实上在现在都非常的到位哦。OK， 那这个就跳过时间关系。
Well, in the interest of time, I will skip this page. How an attack is initiated against critical underwater infrastructure. Well, I just present that chart for your reference. As mentioned already, right now, our capabilities for protecting military use of our undersea infrastructure is probably not very sufficient because there are joint operation and multi-domain operations.
Traditional under single commander 单一个命令。那 what happening？ 今天如果海缆全断了，你这个命令来送得出去吗？你的作战指挥控制系统已经完全没有，几乎是失。
Because once the undersea cable is cut, then you will not be able to transmit your command.
Is cyber, air, land, and sea. 所以你必须 combine 所有这5个 domain 的所有的 intelligence。你可能从 Underwa collect intelligence， 从 satellite collect intelligence， 然后从其他的 source 得到的 intelligence， 做出 proper decision， 做目前这个 territory water 是不是 secure enough？ Okay, wait forward, and I just identify the solution because basically that belong to grade larger than 6 standard deviation. No solution so far. Okay, we need a full digital model of the EEZ based on sonar image because underwater the only available tool is sonar. You need to use a sonar image, collect all the sonar image to build a digital model based on EEZ. If you have resourceful, and if you are resourceless, you probably based on your territory water. So 第二个是一个问题 ，EEZ is too big to fully protect with underwater sensor， 就太大了，200海里，绕一圈可能跟其他国家打架都打不完。
Well, EEZ is actually quite huge. It's impossible to deploy all the sensors we need along the EEZ. And
digital twin of their asset with the government， 他必须把这个 digital twin 的 image 呢的这些 data share 给 local authority。那所有的 all the company active in the EEZ zone should share their imagery data with a central database。那我们事实上要建立这样一个 central database， 所有这些 image 的 data 呢，事实上必须能够把它 centralize collect， 才能知道整个 underwater 它的 profile。所以这不是一个 solution， 只是目前面临到的问题，因为它的 cost is too high and there is no easy way to solve it。所以我们只是把目前可能在推进的一些方向呢做一个探讨。
So I just presented to you what we have been currently doing for your reference. Thank you very much.
Thank you to Dr. Huang for your very informative sharing.